Good morning, my friends. We're live. It's an afternoon for some of you. It's an evening for some of you. But Joseph, we're here on a beautiful Star Wars morning. Welcome to ForceCenter Live. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and I'm thrilled to be here. As we started, our little ticker said that there were exactly 66 people joining us, which is always a great Star Wars number to start with. I'm very excited to be here. Smokey Vandross in the comments saying ginger beer. Yesterday, I had some ginger beer. Today, I actually do have a little whiskey and ginger beer to celebrate the Acolyte, which is the trailer we're here to discuss.
Okay, I'm the lame one today. I have a V8 energy drink because Daddy needs to wake up. All right,
You're smart. You're smart. Now, hey, 77, another great Star Wars number. Anyway, very excited to be here. We're sad that Jennifer can't join us. She's got a busy week with life adventures this week, but we can't wait to get her thoughts as well. But for today, it is Ken and myself.
Sorry, everybody, but we're here. No, we missed Jennifer too. Jennifer, we'll get her reaction next week on the show because she was not at Star Wars Celebration Europe, so she didn't see this footage. And most of this was new, but it had the same vibe, and so I was excited to revisit this. But we'll get her thoughts then too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're excited to see all of the different thoughts and comments and ideas and questions cycling through our comments here. As we're going, by all means, if you have an observation or a comment, share. If you have a specific question, go ahead and put that in. We'll definitely do a round of questions answering at the end of the stream. Is always what's the comments with the money called, Ken? Brain fart.
Super chats. Yeah,
super chats.
What's hilarious is we have a lot of people checking in for the UK because of our earlier start time here. It's not like a super early morning for you and I. It's just my brain doesn't normally get running and revving for deep theme discussions at 11 a.m. It's usually a 1 p.m. thing.
Yes, but super chats are not necessary, but they are appreciated as always. Ken, we don't usually do the real sort of like line by line, scene by scene, especially since this is, set in another era. We've already had a couple of reveals of a High Republic character, Ernesto Rowe, who is going to be in it. It's not the same game of like, hey, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is that Aunt Beru's shoulder in the background? Does she have a rifle? So we never talk about trailers really in that sort of micro analyze and zoom in. We like to zoom out in some ways and talk about the big picture. So that's what we're going to do. That's where we're going to start. And I want to just start with your overall reaction to this trailer. Do you love it? Did you like it? Were any of your hackles raised?
That's right. We did talk about the other day about my hackles getting raised on the discussion of the Jedi and the rot within, but we'll get to that. I got to tell you, I'm hyped, and this was a fun experience. Bad Batch is going on, and that's my favorite Star Wars show thus far, and I love so much of what's out there, of course. But I don't know. It just, you and I have been talking off air, even more than on air, about the fraction of social media and the lack of maybe a cohesive community out there. This had a little bit of the water cooler vibe that I think we've had in the past. Texts amongst friends, did you see it yet? Those kind of things. And that was just kind of fun as a long-time Star Wars fan. Not that we've lost that over the last few years, but, 10 years in or more, actually, to this modern Star Wars era, I just like to know that the love is still there, right? It's like a relationship. Every once in a while, you need to go out for a fancy dinner, remind yourselves that this is why you started. And this is it.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look through a ton of the reactions. I'm going to be excited to get people's reactions in the comments, and I'll look more later. What I really haven't had time to do is to sort of check in with my friends on Facebook who range in ages, but a lot of them are, on the more casual spectrum of Star Wars fans. Always liked it and grew up with it and liked this show, didn't like this show, didn't like that movie, or like this movie kind of thing. But one of the things to me that's been exciting about the Acolyte since it got announced and since we got to see the trailer at Star Wars Celebration, I feel like it has a lot of things that people have been clamoring for. It's got a lot of action. It's got some weighty themes. We'll see what the tone of the show is, if it's gritty and edgy, as some people are discussing, or if it's just simply weighty. There are big ideas here. But also it's It's new. It's not legacy characters. It is
Mhm.
in a timeline that is the earliest for on screen, not counting video games, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited that a lot of people could potentially kind of catch up with what this is about, who are more casual fans. In terms of your comment about your reaction to being like, what's the water cooler reaction? I'm kind of waiting for people for the dime to drop for more casual fans that this is some of the stuff you've been saying you want.
Yeah. Yeah, look, you and I sometimes do the partner check. Our partners, Sarah, your wife, Grace, my fiance, are Star Wars fans, and hey, they live with us. They have to accept it to some degree. But Grace is a big Star Wars fan, and I showed her this morning. It was like she hadn't seen any footage in Celebration London, even though she was there. And I showed her, and she stood up. She was like, "This is oh my god!" And then a coven of witches, and I think that's a good testament to what this could do to a lot of, like you said, the general audience, the casual fans who maybe for whatever reason aren't into Bad Batch or don't know who Ahsoka was. I didn't watch Clone Wars, all that kind of stuff. It's a even field to start for a lot of folks.
Yeah, yeah, it is doing my heart so very good to see the number of people in the comments using the word pulp or pulpy. uh,
Yes.
early on in Force Center, someone made a kind and joking bingo card of things that we said often,
Yeah.
like well said, and one of them was, "Oh, it's pulpy." That
Mhm.
is to me just what such one of the magic parts of Star Wars to me is always the contrast between the old and the new, the profound, the very deep, mashed up with the utterly absurd in the Goonie. You know, everything
Mhm.
from the tragedy of Vader to in Eope farting in Jar Jar's face. It's all
Yeah.
Star Wars. And along that line of contrast, I love that the Jedi are this big, deep philosophy of violence is the last thing we want. But for us as an audience, it's really cool to watch them do violence. And this
Yes.
show, I love many parts of Star Wars, but for me, Jedi, the Force,
Mhm.
lightsabers, and all the action and philosophy that flows from those things are my
Mhm.
favorite part of Star Wars. So for
Yeah.
me, this is something that I have dreamed of, a
Mhm.
television show that's pretty much all Jedi Force users all the time, at least in this trailer. And the action to me is cool and interesting and different, and it is clearly, just from this first trailer, all entirely grounded in philosophical discussion of
Mhm.
we have this power. How should we use it? Who should be allowed to use it? What philosophies or failing of philosophy animates the use of this super cool high kick with the force? I love the mashing up of the excitement and the depth.
I'm right there with you on that. There's some great quotes I'm sure we're going to pull out from this trailer and talk about, but the idea of the galaxy might be just be as simple as power versus those who don't have power, and those that do have it. Where do you stand on that? And there's some great quotes out there from Leslie Headland already. I've said for a long time, and I know you and Jennifer agree that. Anytime Leslie Headland speaks on Star Wars, I really enjoy it, and I really just kind of lean in with a smile. It's not just a case of she gets it, just the joy she has for this. Being a special edition generation kid that she is of Star Wars, it's just shining through. And without a doubt, those deeper discussions are going to be all through this show.
Yeah, I have to admit that was one of my huge reactions too. When we saw the trailer at Star Wars Celebration, it was in this sort of wash of other exciting news and events and all
Mm-hmm.
that, and just looked thrilling and amazing. But sitting here and watching it as the trailer, that now this is the spotlight, this is what everybody's going to be talking about. I was
Mm-hmm.
really profoundly impacted by the generational truth of we are all born in a different time and we all have different experiences, and they funnel into the way that we see things. And that is not a bad thing. That is a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing where we get to share different perspectives. I have my perspective of being a Gen X person who
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about this many, many times, who grew up in the dark and gritty era, and 1999 hits and you kind of want Phantom Menace to be a little dark and gritty and you resist that it isn't. And
Mm-hmm.
so many conversations I had with people in 1999, they were even crankier about the Phantom Menace
Mm-hmm.
because of the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so to watch this trailer, it's like 1999 called in one way, and it is The Matrix
It's
meets the Phantom Menace. It is the
so true.
aliens and the philosophy and the kindness and the empathy, but
Yeah,
it's also Carrie Ann Moss in a line
literally.
of Jedi igniting lightsabers, bubbling ideas of philosophy and high kicks. So, like, from the
So
perspective
funny.
of my generation, it's like, hey, here's what you claimed you wanted in 1999. Star Wars by way of Matrix.
It's it's hilarious,
Yeah.
and yeah, we've been talking about the Matrix connection, Carrie Ann Moss being number one on the list, but then coming out of seeing some of the footage that we were blessed to see in London of just going and the fighting, it's got Matrix, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of stuff going. So it's like the joy of a prequel kid maturing and growing up and taking also the lessons of those three films, but combining it with the joy, the Eopie farts of the Phantom Menace, as you said earlier. I think that's a hilarious and poignant way to look at what we got going with this show.
Yeah. Yeah. One other big generational thought I wanted to run by you, Ken, is
Mm,
this is one of those sort of yeah, it's clear from Leslie Headland's interviews. We know that she's an EU kid, but I was really affected by just seeing it on screen. It's like, what is this? What is this different flavor? What is this different vibe that isn't just about the ideas? It's about the tone. It's
mhm,
about everything. Um, we live in a generation and have for a while now where fans of properties begin to write them. Uh,
mhm,
Doctor Who went through this big phase where it changed massively in the late 80s as kids who grew up with it in the 60s and 70s began writing
mhm,
Doctor Who, and it became very self-reflective. Um, we've had this period in Star Wars now for several years in the Disney era and even earlier with Dave Filoni working on the Clone Wars, but so much of it has been people of our generation, of
mhm,
people who grew up with the origination of Star Wars. The definition
mhm,
of it is the original trilogy. All great creators, from J.J. Abrams to Rian Johnson to Jon Favreau. The power of just feeling, just in a trailer, that this was made by someone who was a teen in the 90s, not the
mhm,
70s and 80s, and the love for the books, Jedi
mhm.
video games, the prequel era, all of those things being so very clearly resonating from every frame is just another thing that just made me celebrate. Like, diversity of perspective is great. I love it.
Mhm.
And I love the different vibe because this is being created by a person who grew up in a different time with different, Rosetta Stones of Star Wars.
I love what you're saying there because I even had this conversation the other day. I was speaking to someone about Star Wars for a little project they were doing, and they apologized to me for when they started watching. And they were kind of more in our age group, but they were like, I apologize. You're probably going to hate me. I didn't see. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm about. I don't want to be the old pop culture expert who's lost his way and is holding on
Mm-hmm.
to one perspective. The joy of this series isn't just the diversity that is on screen, and we can talk about that as it comes up during this discussion here today. But the diversity of thought, the diversity of perspective, the diversity of experience. There's something special about talking to someone who's like, "Oh yeah, 1997. I had no idea what this was." I didn't care about who shot first or where was Lapti Neck. I saw what was up there, and it inspired me. And now they get to do that. I love it. Things like pop culture becomes that. SNL was the rebels in a studio with the lights left on. Now it's an institution, and everyone who's on the show is aware of the show, and it's going to change how it is broadcast to the world without a doubt. Star Wars is part of that, and it's fun to see where it is right now with this series.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And just to get it off my chest, right before we started recording, I did check Facebook very quickly, and it saw a Star Wars group. I don't need to name it, just very friendly. Not criticizing the group. The group put out a friendly, "Hey, what does everybody think?" And the
Hmm.
first 5 or 6 comments I saw were really, to me, very sad. They were the angry, this is all women, this is all people of color, this isn't a story, it's an initiative. And for me, I just wanted to kind of take that moment. We've talked about it a lot over the years, but just for me, I feel incredibly lucky that even though I had all of these different people who looked like me on screen that I could look up to, I looked up to Luke Skywalker because he looked like me. He was scrawny. He had sandy, messy hair that didn't look cool. uh, he was incredibly sensitive and, wore his heart on the sleeve. He was the kind of person that I got teased for being like. So if I got that out of seeing myself on screen, if I had that
Mhm.
luck, I just want
Mhm.
that for everyone. I want everyone to be able to see themselves on screen. I want all sorts of different voices to be able to tell these stories. And part of the way I feel that so deeply is because Star Wars is a story of
Mhm.
empathy and inclusion, and we are all connected. We are all luminous beings. We all have value. Uh, I really, really encourage people who are resistant to just look into your heart and think about the value of empathy, the value of inclusion, how it doesn't take anything from you for everyone to get to see themselves on screen and everyone to get to have a voice in something they love. I,
Yeah.
I, I this is all stuff we've said before. Other people have said it. I just really felt the need to clarify how excited I am to see lots of different voices because I was sad to see that
Mhm.
response.
Yeah, sad, and part of that sadness might be, don't want to speak for you, but the lack of surprise in it, right? Which is something that we've been dealing with as a while in society, where we even, I remember Leslie giving an interview a while ago. This show was first announced in 2020, saying, I get to the if I get to ride up to that elevator at the top, I'm going to send it back down and to bring up people with me, and she's done that clearly. And that's going to put this series right in the crosshairs of a lot of folks who are just either giving tired takes and don't want to change, or who are ready to fight in some kind of culture war. And it's one thing I can ignore it. I can stay in my joy and celebrate what's in this series. I don't think Leslie Headland or anyone on this staff or in this cast needs my protection. Anyone who's been othered in any way has probably had to get through a lot more than I had. But I want to be clear of how this series will, look a little different than maybe anything in the past, and that's a good thing for us. And I will continue to fight for that change going forward.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you everyone for letting us have that conversation. Needed to get that off my chest. I much like Luke. I care. I have strong feelings and want to share them.
Yeah.
Uh, Ken, you and I love talking about the big picture ideas. So for you, what was this trailer about? I mean, this is a trailer where, let's acknowledge, there was a sentence where one of the characters says, literally, "It's about this." So, hey, we want to acknowledge that sentence. It's pretty clear. But for you, what were you vibing on? What did you feel like? Ooh, this is what it's about to me.
Yeah, it's hard to separate. There's a great interview on StarWars.com with Kristen Baver and Leslie Headland. It's not a deep dive interview, just some great quotes. We'll bring them up. But at one point, I do want to highlight this, Joseph. It's fun. We read it to each other right before. That's weird. It's like by candlelight. You and I read this interview to each other before the show. She says, Leslie Headland says, "Whatever you think the Acolyte is, it's not that. It's a drop in the bucket, baby. Just hang in there and check it out." I love that vibe, but we've got to try to figure out what it's about. That's what we're here for. And
Hmm.
there's the quotes. You got Mother Anisea, who's the leader of a coven of witches. This is Jodie Turner-Smith's character.
Ooh.
We are learning the characters as we go. The data bank is up with some character descriptions. Joseph and I might be. This is that great time, Joseph, where not only you not know the characters' names, you don't know how to say them, which is we'll look back and maybe laugh. She has a great quote. This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it, right? So, yes, you're right, central
Mm.
theme. But here's where I was focusing on some of the why. This is going to analyze the Jedi Order 100 years before the Phantom Menace, and it's been said several times. It's analyzing how this institution started to crack and started to fall. And this is a story about underdogs. Another thing Leslie said today is like, in a weird way, the bad guys are the underdog in this situation. The Jedi's are the institution. So there's
Mm.
one, the quote I loved was from the character Yord, who is described as a rule following Jedi Knight and a bit of a temple guard. And he has the line, "Someone is killing Jedi. It doesn't make sense." This, to me, the big why that I took from this isn't that we're going to see the rot of the Jedi Order or a full hubris and arrogance on display. We're going to see that's creeping in, and others can't comprehend that, not just because they're confident and overconfident maybe in them being the good guys or being the institution, but of kind of this rule follower going, this is what we do. and I can't comprehend. I can't see. We have all the harkening back to the Obi-Wan teaching Luke with your eyes will deceive you. The great quote. We can get to that. But when Yord says that, I really gravitated towards that being more of a central theme, or one of the central themes, not just about power, but just him going, it doesn't make sense. It's a great pull quote to understand the Jedi Order at this time. No, we can't, this can't happen to us. And this will allow rot to come in. This will allow all the things to happen. The foundations are cracking and they can't see it. That's where I'm starting my big why discussion.
I'm with you. I think that line was really powerful to me. I've already seen people in the comments talking about the very first lines said by, "Oh, this is so great that we get to look up character names in real time." Soul, the Jedi Master. It looks like the teacher, Master Soul, is a wise, highly respected, powerful Jedi Master, strong in the ways of Force, who is going through emotional conflict.
Yes,
nice. Love emotional conflict. Great for a story. This is such a great version of me I think of using something that is known in Star Wars and having it not be anything that's just referential, something that is deeply meaningful. The fact that it starts with something that basically Obi-Wan told Luke a variation of in the first bit of Star Wars storytelling, saying, "Your eyes can deceive you. We must not trust them." That's what a master is teaching a bunch of younglings as a most basic and foundational truth of the Jedi, that our philosophy is based on questioning things. Our philosophy is based on being open to seeing things in a new way. And I think the whole crux of like my justice for the Jedi is the Jedi are good. The idea of the Jedi is good. For lots of their history, they maintained the incredibly difficult to maintain philosophy. We're an institution who believes in always questioning things, which is difficult and uncomfortable. And at some point, an institution based on questioning things is going to get rigid and say, we'll question everything, but nobody question us. And I think the fact that it starts with that is a great way to sort of describe this tension in the Jedi Order that is going to lead to from Soul to Ki-Adi-Mundi going, "I'm very certain about everything I say."
Yes.
The Sith could not have returned. They have been extinct for millennia, period. Now I'm going to go train some younglings to open their minds and question everything, but not me, Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Not me.
You know, it's a really difficult philosophy. It's a challenging philosophy. I've joked before, it's true. My mother, when I was about 13, gave me a button that said "Question Authority" because she was a hippie who thought she was fighting the institution. Then about a year later, she realized she's the mom, she's the institution, and I might question her. And she was like, "Give me that damn button back." And that, I think, is a part of the story of the Acolyte. My mom taking away my "Question Authority" button.
I love that. I love that there. No, and I love it. This is getting deep into Jedi philosophy, and I'm interested. Again, what we're going to see where this show goes. And that's something you and I might say a few times today. Of just like, hey, we're having fun. Speculate responsibly, which has been something we've said for years. And by the way, I was shocked at one of the channels that used it the other day because I don't think they're fans of what we do, but they did. We're going to speculate responsibly. We don't know, but I just discussing what this means 100 years before. That's a small amount of time in the Star Wars story overall, going back to Old Republic, whatever. But that's a long enough time to where whatever happens here doesn't immediately lead to what happens in the Phantom Menace. It's setting it up. And the everyone is highlighting what you're talking about. The close your eyes can deceive you. How many times do you see it? Not just Luke and Ben Kenobi, but Sabine, Ahsoka just went through this kind of stuff. Ezra, I think, went through some of this stuff too. It's just a standard of the Jedi philosophy, but it's really about this understanding what is actually going on, understanding and seeing what's going on versus just it's feeling more than just accepting what you see, and I love that kind of stuff and how that can be exploited, and not even exploited, but like what you're saying, challenged by others. Challenged by the galaxy, especially they're coming out of this High Republic era where that the novels as they're in phase 3, we haven't gotten to a lot of conclusions of maybe the big stories, but I don't know, I'm gonna say Jedi had some big wins, right? Did some good, And now
did some
people question
real
it.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that I think the interesting question to me is what happens when some Jedi stop being willing to question themselves or stop willing to go,
Mm.
hey, maybe we screwed up on that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Not the biggest deal. Maybe we treated one person poorly. Maybe we
Mm-hmm.
can question ourselves, acknowledge that, fix it. Um,
Yeah.
I think for me, sometimes philosophically, I think people hear questioning is as soon as you question it, you're admitting you're wrong. But I
Right.
think the value of questioning is if you're like, I've always been this way, now I'm going to question it. Sometimes you're like, I've made a mistake and I should change. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you're like, nope, I did the rigorous work to question it and examine it. And I absolutely agree with myself. It isn't just about the Jedi are bad and wrong. It's
Yeah.
that the Jedi, like everybody, probably make mistakes and have victories. And you need to continue to question yourself to make sure that you're in agreement, you're in alignment with your philosophy and not just assuming you're in alignment with your philosophy.
I don't think we're going to spend a ton of time inside the High Council of the Jedi Order. I would like to. I hope we see it. I hope maybe some Oppo Red Sisters. A lot of people wondering about Yoda. Fair questions, wonderful questions we might get to. But I now want what you're suggesting. That the idea of questioning and how different people react to it and relate to it. Because confirmation sometimes isn't a bad thing. I questioned, I challenged myself, and no, I'm pretty good with where I am. Right? That's okay. It doesn't mean you're not changing. And then some people change dramatically. But I want to know who on that order is being like, all right, hey, we've been questioned on some things. Let's take a poll of what that means and how people react to that questioning is the internal conflict, the emotional conflict that's already been hinted at in some of the character
Yeah.
descriptions.
And I think you're the line from Yord. I love Yord's vibe. He
Mm-hmm.
has a similar vibe to many of the High Republic characters I like, who and
Mm-hmm.
he's described as very rule following and by the book, and he comes across as so sincere. Somebody
Yeah.
who's been raised in a good order by kind people who does good things, and it
Yeah.
reminds me of friends I've known who have had a pretty good life, and then when they encounter trauma, they're like, "What is this?
Yeah.
Why did nobody tell me about this?" I love that perspective. I love that you highlighted his line of just like, it doesn't make sense. The Jedi are defenders of peace and justice. We help people. Why would
Yeah.
anyone want to kill us? It's so sincere, and it raises the question in an interesting way. And I can't wait to see how much Yord's mind gets blown by
Yeah.
a different perspective.
Yeah, no, I'm, you all know some of my personal history, not just in terms of work and some of the lines of work I've been in before, but I don't cross the street unless there's a light telling me to, right? Like I follow the rules,
Hmm.
and I'm immediately I'm gravitating to Yord based on the description combined with that line, because again, this is why I think what the series might do in a lot of ways, again, we'll see, is it isn't Jedi gone wrong. There's some of that. Clearly, we've
Hmm.
seen that. We got a former apprentice pulled back in. We got a red blade. We're going to talk about all that. We'll see if the word Sith pops up in any way, shape, or
Hmm.
form. I'm conflicted on that. I don't know. I want to get your thoughts on it. But I just love that line. I love that attitude. That there is a little bit of like, whoa, wait. It's not quite the example, but it's Michael Douglas, the end of Falling Down. I'm the bad guy. Yeah, you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're the bad guy. And I'm not saying Yord in this case is, but he's like, we've done everything right, and people still don't like us, and that confusion is about the things, what you're seeing versus what you're feeling.
Hmm.
Love it.
Yeah.
I
No,
love it.
that's great. Yeah, and
And
I
follow the rules, kids. Cross at cross lights.
cross at cross lights. I bet Yord crosses at cross lights, and I bet Yoda taught him how. Yoda taught him, okay,
Mm-hmm.
reach out with
Mm-hmm.
your feelings before you cross the street.
Yep.
Um, I also just love every. I love how little we know, both in terms of marketing to get
Mm-hmm.
us excited, and also because I think that's the nature of the story that's being told. In terms of the idea that's in this trailer is maybe not the entire idea of the show, but it is this idea of what is lurking under the surface, the truth under the surface. Love the eyes can deceive you line, but I also love the great sort of twist on a scene we've seen before of a young student reaching out and closing their eyes and just feeling what they feel, and we get life, balance, and then we get The girl's like, I see fire.
That's actually the moment I woke up Grace and I said, "Hey, they put you in Star Wars."
Right. And I think that is also like a great little like teaser for it is there is something bubbling under the surface that some of us don't want to see. Like, again, sorry to beat up on poor Mundi,
Hmm.
but he's the one
I'm
in the
not.
prequel films who has all of the, I know exactly what I'm talking about, and he's wrong almost every time.
No, he is.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's another. Yeah, It's like I love Mace Windu, but there's someone who reacts to questioning in a different way than other people do.
Hmm. But like, I feel like, I'm sure there are Jedi who would say, "Oh, this girl senses something. This young person, and truly wonderful is the mind of a child. Uh,
Hmm.
the girl who sees fire sees something that maybe the rest of us don't." And I think those Jedi who are like, "Nope, you didn't see fire. Try again," because we
Yeah.
don't really want to focus on this truth bubbling under the surface, the mystery under the surface. So I really liked all of that that vibe of just something bubbling under the surface. It's such a great classic noir
Hmm.
feeling.
Oops, sorry, I was trying to favorite that one. There we go. Got questions for later.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
shall we move on
Yeah,
to talking a little bit about that red blade?
I think so. It's one of the headlines to come out of this here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because for me, the red blade is really interesting because I think it is just some sort of like canon stuff about the word Sith and the opinion expressed by Mundi and others in the Phantom Menace that the Sith have been extinct for millennia. I
Hmm.
mean, with the
Hmm.
asterisk of there was that business about 100 years ago,
Yeah.
but it's also philosophical, right? Of
Yes.
who are these people and what do they want? So, what did you make of the red blade? How do you hope the show might deal with the idea of the Sith and all that?
Yeah, I even called a lifeline. I did the old Who Wants to Be. I texted some of our buddies like Alden and Alex Damon, and just was like, "What do you think?" Just in terms of a base prediction of will we see a Sith? Is that red blade belonging to a Sith? Is it a dark force, dark side user? Is it an acolyte of the dark side? All these kind of things, and I really don't know. And I think not only is that just trying to leave open the possibility of what's to come, but I still don't see this being as we're going to check in. We might, but I don't see it as checking in with Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis and his staff and Sheev and all those things. I think it's a fair question to ask. We got some coming in. That's why I was favoring one of them. But like, yeah, I want to know myself. I still go to this big theme of this isn't the Jedi Order collapsing. It's the Jedi Order being primed and a vulnerability being exposed, and not a vulnerability in terms of numbers, strength. They still got mission robes here. They still got gala event robes. It's still the High Republic. It's not a weakness in terms of the actual power you can measure, but it's a vulnerability that somewhere, as this is happening, two Sith are sitting somewhere, and they're nudge, know what I mean in each other, going, "This is ready. We're almost ready." Whether that's baby Sheev, I don't know. I don't think so. Whether it's Plagueis, Tenebrous, I don't know. I'm not even concerned about the canon timeline of it. Just I like the idea that it isn't the Sith ready to fight the Jedi. It's the Sith watching or participating from afar, going, it's almost time. The cracks are there. We see it. They don't.
I love that. I love we'll get my Jedi Council scenes where they directly hand out and take back question authority buttons,
Yeah.
and then we'll get your the Sith commentary. Like the Sith are just like they're the Sith in their booth watching the play by play, going, "Oh man, look at them
Yeah.
cracks." I
Yeah.
really hope we do get Tenebrous and Plagueis sitting back with some Mantel mix, laughing at the
Yeah.
cracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of responsible speculation, I don't know. It almost feels like two different ideas to me of will we
Hmm.
see Sith? All jokes aside, like, yeah, if any form of dark side user, even if it's just
Hmm.
a coven
Hmm.
of witches, are kind of the ones behind this,
Yeah.
or even if a Sith isn't actively fighting Jedi,
Hmm.
but are watching it, or maybe behind it, or maybe urging it forward, we might see Sith. That
Yeah.
to me is also almost like a separate idea from, well, who are the antagonists? Who is wielding that red blade actively against the Jedi who would not make a bunch of Jedi go, yeah, no, the Sith are back.
Right.
Raise the alarm. Um, for me, I like the idea. This is speculation, so I could be wrong, and I'd be happy to be wrong. That it is a different kind of dark side user, a different kind of dark side philosophy who has picked up an old Sith weapon and is wielding it against the Jedi. So from the Jedi's perspective of like our old enemy is not returned, that institution is not returned. There was, there was a Force user who made a bad choice, which kind of justifies us in our feeling that we should lock down who gets to control what, you know.
Yeah.
Star Wars storytelling in publishing has done such a good job of highlighting that there can be all sorts of different groups, in sometimes very small ones, who look at the Force in different ways. Sometimes just a planet who has a specific name for it and a specific relationship and philosophy with it. And I'm so excited about this Mother Anasia character, a coven of witches who value their independence in the preservation of their belief and powers. Even the people on Bardata in Clone Wars are a planet that has a specific relationship to the Force. So I really love the idea that on kind of a big screen, live action Star Wars show, we could really be introduced to this idea of it doesn't have to be the Sith. It could be this one coven of witches from this planet who feel they're being held back from practicing their own beliefs by the Jedi, get an old Sith weapon and decide to lash out.
Yeah, it's the I try to choose my words carefully here, but the timeless battle of Jedi versus Sith is almost too simple for what this show might be setting up for me, which doesn't mean we're not going to, again, see it, hear it, have reference to it. But the dark side exists all the time, right? That's the balance, right? And it's only the dark, those who would take the dark side and try to push it over the light is the problem. And that's Sith. In the past, now we've seen more of the Nile. You and I are trying to catch up with High Republic, but I love that first phase so much. I really was drawn to the storytelling of the Nile at the time, energizing those with maybe some actual legit problems with the galaxy, disenfranchised people, riling them up, a strongman leader that says, we're storming the Capitol because we're justified in that in our minds. And don't you believe me? And how you can take something that's some legit maybe questions or some perspectives and experiences and whip it on up. And that's dark side energy trying to push past the over the light. And they in their minds view themselves as an underdog, talking about the Nile at one point, right? The Republic, the Jedi, were the institutions. And that if that carries over into here, and if you've got anyone who is like, hey, whoa, I don't identify as a dark side. I'm not a Sith. But I got to tell you, I feel like an underdog, and I don't like what they are doing with their power. I don't like how it's affecting me. But there's some imagery, there's some iconography, there's some things I can pick up and use to fight for what I think is my right perspective against this institution. That's an interesting thing to explore with me, and it doesn't have to be a Sith. It could. Again, Plagueis shows up and he's like, I got a staff and a blade. Yay. Cool. I'd be excited. I just think there's bigger things at stake.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I do hope that we see the Sith. I see Alden joke about his band. We might see the Sith. Hey, that might be our recurring phrase every time we watch an episode. We might see the Sith.
Yeah,
And Sith are great, and I love them, but I want more different perspectives, more covens, sects, groups, sects, SECTS, really clearly there. To me, it does broaden the horizon of what Star Wars can be, and I really appreciate and enjoy that.
Yeah.
I love what you're describing too, Ken, because I think there is such a philosophy that we've seen in the Sith that's very knowing manipulation of the Jedi have done you wrong, so you should, in this small way.
Yeah.
So you should do 10 million times worse to the entire galaxy. That I have been wronged and I lash out a little bit and now I'm lashing out and I'm totally, utterly out of control. With Leslie Headland's great comments about the villains sort of being the underdogs, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about like horror characters, and in particular like the early Universal horror films, and all those monsters are others. They're all underdogs. And it's part of the great relationship with the villains and with horror is that we can have this great thought experiment of, I feel like that. I feel awful and mistreated. I'm so on the monster side until all
Mm.
the murder started happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like this could be a really interesting exploration of, we agree with you about why you're angry.
Mm-hmm.
Marching through the galaxy, murdering Jedi is accomplishing what? You know?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this being a dark side user show, right? Or having that
Mm-hmm.
perspective. I think that's from even the very beginning with some of the early interviews. You and I have discussed, maybe even ad nauseum, that just doesn't mean it's going to justify the villains in the end, but it's going to analyze that along the way, and that's kind of the big picture for me on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, any other thoughts on that big quote of this isn't about good or bad, this is about power and who is allowed to use it?
Yeah, it's coming from a leader of witches. And I want to be clear, as someone who lives with a witch, that does not mean they're bad
Mm-hmm.
or on the bad team. I wouldn't even call the Night Sisters pure bad, whatever that means. But it's
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. So you had mentioned it of this coven of witches, this mother, Anicia. We're going to see again how to say that. Having their perspective of they are described in the databank this coven of witches who value their independence and preservation of their beliefs and powers, something I would think they would have a right to.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're interpreting or have experienced the Jedi or the Republic at this point, pushing maybe the light too strong, which I guess you could say is possible. I'm very very intrigued because it's not necessarily. I don't think this mother of these witches is trying to get power. She's just pointing out this truth of it's almost a both sides. Maybe I don't know. I don't know the full context of the quote, but it's just setting up this thing about it's about the control, and that's the danger. And you got to watch that again. Open your eyes or close them and see what's actually going on and feel what's actually going on.
Yeah, I love that quote. I believe that was in the
Mm-hmm.
trailer that we saw at Star Wars Celebration, because I feel like that one's been. I feel like
Yeah.
you and I have talked about it, Ken, and it's been ringing around in my mind. And again, to me, it goes to my perspective on the Jedi of, they're trying to walk a really difficult path. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're walking a difficult path, sometimes you stumble because you embrace nuance, you embrace possibilities, and you make mistakes, and you got to pick yourself up and keep going. To me, that's the more mature thing than claiming you are always correct and you've got it all figured out.
Right.
But this idea of, there there are people in this galaxy who have flowing connection to this great power of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who want to, we want to train them to use it responsibly. And we want to embrace the responsibility of our power and stop people who would use that power just to murder and hurt and
Mm-hmm.
control others. So that's
Mm-hmm.
all noble. But then you can easily tip into, and now we are the Force police who tells everybody how they can use it, right? The
Yep.
line between that, to me, isn't easy. It's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
nuanced and careful, and you're gonna blur the line from time to time. And how are you gonna handle those mistakes? That's what I love in this quote. It
Mm-hmm.
isn't, to me, this quote isn't just Jedi bad. It's pointing towards how difficult the path of using power responsibly is.
And how it should be, right?
Yeah.
It should be. It should be a pretty hard job. I
Mm-hmm.
also enjoy that you've the sequel to Cheap Trick's Dream Police is Force Police, and it's a great song that we all can enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and also, like, it's so great to see this mother, Anastasia character, and not know
Mm-hmm.
anything about her, and not know, like, is that a legitimate belief? Was she legitimately, truly wronged by the Jedi,
Yeah, yeah,
or is that a
yeah,
manipulation of someone?
yeah,
We don't know. I love the mystery of it. I'm not eager to figure out the plot.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I love how much of it is a mystery, and what we've seen is a drop in the bucket, said Leslie Headland, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. Which I love that phrase, anyways. But yeah, yeah, that a lot of people were commenting. I was watching some reaction videos today from friends of the show and everything, and a lot of people just enjoyed that they felt this was a great official trailer. We have enough, but we have so much more to learn, and that's exciting. That's great marketing.
Yeah, yeah. Very exciting stuff. Well, from the depth of the responsibility of power, let's talk about Wookiees. uh,
Oh, is that a Wookiee?
yeah, I mean, a lot of people are talking about the number of aliens in this, which I agree is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that more. But
Hmm.
the live action Jedi Wookiee, which was revealed at Star Wars Celebration, played by the same actor who played Chewbacca for a large part of
Hmm.
the sequel trilogy, Eunice Swadamo, whose name I understand it can only be said if you are a native speaker. So I apologize if I got that wrong. But how did it affect you, Ken? We've been talking about lots of different perspectives. Everybody has them. We're going to talk about our own perspective. You and I grew up with Chewbacca. He was one of the sort of original alien weirdos of
Hmm.
Star Wars. Here's Han Solo flying around in his busted up old car with his dog as a co-pilot. Um,
Hmm.
how did it affect you to see a live action Jedi Wookiee?
It's been fun even from the beginning when they brought Jonas out at some of the convention stuff and the outfit, the robe. It's just magnificent, and I think he's done such a good job as Chewbacca, which is it's a tough task, a tall task, literally, with an absolute legend setting the bar so high. So I'm excited to see him involved and get a chance to maybe take a Wookiee in a different direction. But as a longtime Star Wars fan who grew up loving Han, which meant I loved my loyal Chewie at my side, this I never, we got Gunji and we got other examples perhaps of Wookiee as Jedi, right? And Buryaga
Buryaga
comes
in
to
the High
mind. Yeah.
Republic books, yeah.
I didn't spend a lot of time in my Star Wars youth wanting to see a Wookiee as a Jedi, but even though it probably made more sense than even I realized, them being so connected to nature, being of Kashyyyk and this kind of wild, crazy planet with all these surprises, and at least in every video game level I've played on it. So I'm intrigued. And then the description comes out. Kalnaka, a Wookiee Jedi, is a loner who lives a solitary life. Sign me up. Sign me up. That's me.
Mm.
And I just love now, I don't have a solitary life. I got a wonderful person in my life and two dogs. But you know what I mean? Like I'm immediately intrigued by a Jedi during this era where they're still riding pretty high. The institution is very much in place. And he's not on, he's not on, didn't take a Barash vow or anything like that we know of. He's
Maybe he's
just,
coming back for one,
maybe he's coming back, but he's set aside from it. Possibly, potentially. That's immediately intriguing to me. That he's just like, you know what? It was like me at Collider. They're like, are you part of this? I don't even like movies. I'm just gonna be over here in this office. I'm on the team, but I'm over here. Call me if you need me. I'm intrigued by him. I'm immediately in love with this character.
Yeah, no, I hadn't pulled up his databank entry. I love being able to do this live. It's not just the entry. Kalnaka, a Wookiee Jedi, is a loner who lives a solitary life. A rebel, a loner, Dottie. I added that last part. But it's the fact that the screen capture, I'm sure, it looks like he's probably looking at something in his beautiful Wookiee hands.
He's tired.
But his head is just bowed down of like, this is he's roaring in Sherwook. This is just more bleep I gotta do. Absolutely love that.
Because what set him up? Is it just because that's who he is? Does he feel alone because he's one of the only Wookiee Jedi out there? Was he super aware of his culture, his planet? All those questions come to mind. Yeah, but also just that who knows? It could have been like. I was involved. I took all the right classes. I was on Microsoft Teams, and then Oppo or Insistus just wouldn't shut up. This, that, and I got to get out of here. And I'm gonna go. I want to be what Porto Engle was. I'm gonna learn to cook some 9-egg stew and just kind of be in a temple over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fun to me.
Yeah, it's really great to see that there is clearly something of depth going on with the character, which I expected, but to see people discussing it, so he isn't just like he's a Jedi Wookiee. Like we've had Gungi, we've had in Clone Wars, we've had Buryaga. I know there's other stuff in the EU that I'm not as familiar with, but I think for me, as I've said many times, I'm of the age to have speculated between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and it wasn't the same. It was playground conversations with, most kids had a Star Wars t-shirt, but only some of them wanted to talk to you about Star Wars, even then. But that, Yoda's, there is another. I mean, can you imagine 3 years of speculation on that now, Ken?
Right.
Just think of that from a now perspective of there is another.
Chewy.
What?
It's Chewy.
But we did. We ran through all the options, and I remember asking kids every once in a while, I was like, "Do you think the other could be Chewbacca?" And they're like, the hell's wrong with you? Wookiees can't use the Force. There was a
See?
real attitude of like
Yeah.
everybody in their place. Han's a cool guy. Luke's a
Yep.
sensitive Jedi. Leia's a fierce leader.
Yep.
These are the Chewbacca's a sidekick. A
Right.
sidekick can't be a
Yeah.
Jedi.
Right.
And then you start getting books and video games, as early as the 90s, where
Mhm.
that kind of what if fun of like, could a Wookiee be a Jedi? Was
Mhm.
like it thrived, it grew in books and video games and EU. So for me, seeing
Mm.
sad solitary Kalnaka is this sort of culmination of decades of
Mhm.
wanting that what if uh
Mhm.
energy in Star Wars of could Wookiee be a Jedi? Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Let's play, let's have fun, let's explore. Wookiees aren't sidekicks because the first one we met filled that narrative role. It
Mhm.
yeah,
So
it
funny.
was just it was even though I knew Kalnaka was going to be in it, it was surprisingly effective and powerful for me to see that what if idea come to life.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah. No. Yeah. It speaks to our generation. Maybe some of the underlying problems where we're all like, no, not them.
Hmm.
Only Luke.
Yeah, only Luke.
Only Luke.
Yep. All right. Any other favorite moments in the trailer that you wanted to call out, Ken?
There's a couple important images. There's a lot of great action. I enjoy the fighting that's been on display. We saw some of that at Celebration, so we knew kind of that vibe. And yes, the Matrix, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. There's a lot of influences that Leslie Headland's already named, and she's even talked about in this interview. I highly recommend you all check it out later. Of the primary actors all coming to play and doing a lot of their own stunts and getting
Hmm.
involved. That's exciting. So there's a lot of action. But two moments I want to highlight is images of the Jedi Order in peril. There's an image of what looks like, and I'll check on Alex for the Easter eggs later and the connections, but it looks like a Jedi starfighter crashing. It's kind of exciting, kind of interesting. We'll get to see something in space here, but I just like that it's an iconic image, especially if you're a prequel kid. And there it is crashing. There it is coming down to the ground. And then later on, you got a collection of Jedi raising their blades. Pretty cool. And immediately they're blown back by this dark side power. And just this is kind of setting the tone for me what we're getting. This institution that might soon be in peril. Love pulling in all the stuff going on there. Oh, also I like floating serving droids.
Oh, floating serving droids, always. Like, yeah, Lando's little cocktail droid buddy needs some friends. In terms of the action, yeah, there's a bunch of cool shots, and I know, for some people, it looks uh, too much like other action
Yeah,
things, and
sure.
that's fine. Tastes are tastes, and opinions are opinions. For me, it is fun to see a different style of action, a heightened style of action that still, to me, makes sense within the acrobatics and style that we saw in the prequels. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
the Carrie-Anne Moss shots of what it looks like of the lead character May, right? That's her name.
Hmm. Yeah, May.
Of May, attacking her,
Hmm.
um, were just so phenomenal because it wasn't to me just about action. It was like cool action, and it was the long legacy of having a relationship with Carrie-Anne Moss. But more than
Yeah.
anything for me, Ken, it was that cool action that makes me want to get up and pretend to have a fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Combined with Jedi philosophy, I loved how almost effortless it is because it was clearly that's how you fight if your entire thing is I don't want to use violence and I use it for defense.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Everything is about no, I'm going to make your aggression go away, away, and away. It's so cool because to me it's Jedi philosophy in cool action fighting form.
Absolutely. You want to, screenwriting 101, right? You learn about your characters and how they fight. And I love that. And it just, yeah, I think as someone who, in years past, years past, uh, didn't take to the prequel fights as much as I do now. A
Mm.
lot of that came from listening to other people who did enjoy it and having those connections of not just what George had said about its Jedi at their heights, but it's just of the era too. That's why we keep going back to Matrix and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and there's other examples, but those two on the fly in a live show are the only two I got for you. But carrying over that and just seeing it here, it just makes a lot of sense for what's going on. And thematically, like you just said, it really tracks.
Yeah, I believe Leslie Headland has mentioned the films of the Shaw brothers, which I'm not familiar with, and look forward to checking out. I always like to use Star Wars as a way to discover other influences that I don't know about, so I'm excited to check that out. Some other, I love the shot. I wrote my notes, mystery woman, but now we know it's a mother, mother's whose name we don't know how to pronounce.
Anastasia. It's my horrible guess.
Before we had the database entry, and we didn't really know that she was, when I watched it this morning, I didn't know she was the leader of a coven of witches. But I just love that shot of her being worshipped. You know, that's the way I took it, as, you know, people are sort of like, you know, genuflecting and looking up to her, but not entirely, you know, which is right. It's a cool shot to just kind of put over this character in wrestling terms, is like, ooh, she's got power.
Oh, totally.
But also it's a sort of like, she might be right if she has criticisms of Jedi philosophy, but what's going on in her philosophy? That she appears to be the absolute leader from that one shot. So it was a great shot that made me go, ooh, who is this and what's their philosophy? I love that. There's also the shot that I think StarWars.com also put out a different poster of the one figure who I assume is May, the main character, but I could be wrong, on those kind of watery rocks looking toward a figure in the distance. It just had this really great mood of a desperate, confused person who has come to someone else for the answers, and maybe a good person and maybe a bad person. I mean, it was just really evocative. I really like that shot.
Yeah, talking about I think the supplemental poster they released too. Spectacular stuff, and a lot of speculation of did we see Octo? Did we even see the Streets of Batuu? And I love all that stuff too. We'll see when we get there. I'm always of the opinion that it is either a new planet, or, as Leslie has said, she pulled out an old Star Wars atlas and just found a planet that she absolutely wanted to highlight here. I want to talk a little bit, talking about favorite moments in the character of May, Amandla Stenberg's character. I think for myself, I've always been under the impression that maybe she was the Acolyte. That might be the case, and this could lend credence to the idea of a Sith, an actual Sith in the shadows. But I love the description of May gets swept into a sinister mystery. We know this is a mystery thriller, one that puts her into the center of a conflict in unexpected ways. That is intriguing to me too. And every shot of her masked, fighting with a blade, an actual blade. I'm intrigued by this character and what this might actually mean for her, and how I think I had the perception coming into this that she's probably the Acolyte. I don't know if that's true at all, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, putting aside any assumptions or guesses and just watching the trailer, it's really interesting to see this sort of like, you know, angry, determined assassin, and realizing, you know, what is going to get her to work with Jedi. What does she need? What does she want? And, you know, when Leslie Headland says you've seen a drop in the bucket, I don't think this trailer tells us a lot about who the main character is and what she wants and where she lands on the philosophy. She's attacking Jedi, but we don't know why. For herself, for others, because of something that happened to her. Love how much we don't know. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and I do believe, you know, I would go on. I think we got a little bit of a lot of people call it a flashback or a prologue or whatever. But Soul talking to the younglings, I'm kind of taking that as possibly her, May, being the one
saying "I see fire."
I see fire, which would make sense. And again, and I love that. I love all that stuff.
That is a great possibility. Absolutely love that. Other thing for me is just in the category of lots of aliens, not just a Wookiee Jedi, not just not just a Press Kelnak, Kelnaka. I loved in the Jedi Temple scene the Tarsunt child, same species as poor Chancellor Villachem. Love that.
Also, and our guy Vober Dan. Do you think it's a relative of Vober Dan?
I hope so. I really hope so.
This Jedi is really good at logistics of fighter pilots. And
this Jedi has a special touch with spreadsheets. It's amazing. One of my favorite traditions of the last decade of Star Wars is digging through the shots for your favorite new weirdo. There's early on, there's a weird little guy sucking up soup, and there's even like a little tiny sucking sound. It's beautiful. Beautiful sound design.
Yeah. I like that. Leslie Headland and her team, and she's got a great team of writers and directors we can get into some of the time. I don't have the list in front of me, but they have put together a show truly for everyone. They've got a Jedi that's like, I'm good, I'm going to stay alone. And they got a soup drinker. That's me. I do see myself here, Joseph, today.
I hope it's clam chowder, because then I get to be the soup sucking guy. Okay, no, you're not.
I'll take a chicken tortilla. Okay.
The list of directors dropped. I haven't had a chance to and the person who wrote the score. We will have much more time to talk about those all those people in the future. Final question for you, Ken, and then we'll get into taking some questions here in the chat. This is listed as an official trailer, not a teaser. We're a little over 3 months out from the what was revealed as a 2-episode debut on June 4th. Are you expecting another trailer? Do you want another one? Do you think there'll just be the steady drip of other sources? What are you thinking?
I do love a steady drip of tri-tip soup into my mouth. Here's I'm so happy we have this today. It is it's perfectly timed for a teaser trailer. But yeah, you're right. They call it the official trailer, and we are several weeks out. 11 or so out from June 4th, which is crazy. The time moves that fast. I did see something, and maybe chat can confirm, or anyone watching live here, that with the Phantom Menace release May 4th, that there might be a special preview of the Acolyte. So I think this might be kind of it until maybe some TV spots or social spots, but drawing people in, and maybe then eventually that teaser gets out. I am or that full trailer, but this seems like this is it. And if it is it, I'd be happy. A minute and 47 seconds or whatever it is of tantalizing intrigue is good enough for me. But it'd be interesting. And Sean Rooms has confirmed, at least at AMC. So Nicole Kidman and us will watch the preview here.
Cool. I did math wrong. I think that was my wanting there to be another month in there. You're right. So it is even closer than I was thinking. So I could see another trailer, but I also see, like, I could definitely see one of those entertainment magazine drops where it's like there's an article that has actually 8 mini articles, and here's more about who May is. Meet the fight choreographer. I think the way social media has been used, like, remember, like, wasn't like the day of the Last Jedi release, they put out like the shot of Rey grabbing Kylo's blade in Snoke's throne room. There's that, like, there can be that, like, okay, there's a little bit more, there's a little bit more, there's a little bit more, just sort of drop. I'm kind of expecting that.
And look, I think just in terms of, we talked up top of general audience or casual audience, those who aren't subscribed to Disney Plus, which is still a concern. Subscriber numbers are not the primary drive, but they're part of it still very much for the Disney Corporation. But you're still going to need to explain it a little bit more, not in detail and plot, but just like, hey, lightsabers, dark side, light side. I don't know, maybe Yoda. Like, I'm expecting some more of that stuff, mostly on social.
I would be a big fan in general of switching up trailers in lots of ways to just have some variety, because trailers can get very similar, which it's marketing and research and it's all But remember back in the day when, like, I don't remember it because I wasn't alive. But like, Alfred Hitchcock would just walk out and say, "I've made another film," and he tells you about what it is. I honestly do think, like, an actual trailer, or not even a commercial, that plays on television, where you see some scenes, and Leslie Headland walks out and is like, "I've made a Star Wars. It's set 100 years before the Phantom Menace, and it deals with how the Jedi began to lose their way. And it's got a Wookiee. Check it out." Like,
check it out.
I really think that
you're hired.
That kind of communication with the general public, what's wrong with it?
I agree with you. The Hitchcock reference is great. One I have made for years because it's still one of my favorite all time trailers. Is the first Pink Panther? That you ever watch the trailer for that movie? It
Mm-mm.
literally shows a scene, and the VO is here's David Niven in his scene with Peter Sellers. Let's watch what they say. It's just so fantastic. So yeah, let's do something like that. Here's Carrie Ann Moss as Indra. Let's watch her scene here with May. They're about to fight. Let's do something like that. But actually, your idea, something like that could work. You're hired for the social team because I think that's great.
No, our friend of the show, Scotty J. Rowe, I just saw on Facebook, was just like, hey, for my friends who aren't as familiar, 100 years before the Phantom Menace,
Yeah, and that kind of
it's a service.
Yeah, it's someone coming off the. We're getting to actually in June as well. Oh boy, content overload. House of the Dragon season 2. They had House of the Dragon season 1. They had a great opening intro. I felt that was like cool. You know that show you just watched, whether you liked it or not, or liked the end or not, doesn't matter. This is, and they highlighted the words 178 years before Daenerys Targaryen. You can mock that or make fun of it, but you need that. You need that. How many times have we, as Star Wars fans, explained stories we all experienced of sitting in Rogue One and some lady nudges me and goes, "Now that one's the girl from Force Awakens, right?" And you're like, "No, no, no." You do need to worry about that kind of stuff. So, anyways, I'm behind your idea.
I love being here in the bubble with people who are who are intense Star Wars fans and know a lot. It's wonderful. But I want Star Wars to be for everyone, which means getting people who are at work right now, who are casual Star Wars fans to
Sorry.
What?
Noah Olson says 100 years before the downfall of Sebulba.
This is what I'm talking about. Everybody knows Sebulba.
Poodle.
Yeah.
That's
anyway,
needed.
I just think
it's beautiful.
Open the door for people as much as possible. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Should we go to the old chats?
Let's go to the chats. We got a wonderful collection of questions coming in here. We, as always, appreciate the super chats. They're not 100% needed to get into the show or the conversation, but we're definitely appreciative of them as they help the show keep going. But let's go to the earliest one that I think you or I favored here, Joseph. I'll start the bidding here with Natalie Franchini. Always wonderful in our chats. Great profile picture of a doggy. Which new character are you most intrigued by? For me, it's Mother Anastasia. Again, that's the way I'm saying it now, until told otherwise. The leader of the Coven of Witches who value their independence and the preservation of their beliefs and powers, as we discussed earlier. I'll start Kelnaka for some humor, but I got to tell you, right now the most intriguing is Amandla Stenberg, May, because of what we're talking about. My expectations are swerved a little bit that I put on myself of, she's maybe gone to the dark side. I don't know that. I don't know where she'll end up. So I'm just very intrigued by what is going on there.
Yeah, no, definitely May, because we don't know what's going on. Mother Anastasia, we've talked about a lot. I think she is probably the most intriguing to me because it does open all these doors to things we've got in publishing of different perspectives on the Force, and excited to see that in live action, and excited to see how much am I going to understand this character's perspective, but disagree with their choices or all that kind of thing. Love it. Very excited about it. Kelnaka, look, depressed Wookiee. When I was a kid, I could fantasize about a Jedi Wookiee. It never even occurred to me the glory of a depressed Wookiee. A Wookiee's like, I could climb that tree, but I just see more of this world. Why? Anyway. Very excited about it. But the character I want to highlight is the one who has perhaps the most robust entry on Databank. It's Carrie Ann Moss's character, Indara. Here is the absolute tome of description. Master Indara is a Jedi Master of great physical and mental skill. Period.
Yes,
that's it. But in all honesty, I'm excited for Carrie Ann Moss. Obviously, there is a relationship with her as Trinity and other roles in Marvel shows and other roles other places. But I always gravitate toward characters who feel on the surface like I've got my bleep together. I've got my feet under me. I am older. I'm wiser. I have great physical prowess.
Mm,
So all of these sort of basic ways in which we can feel wobbly, that ain't me. I'm rock solid. And
right.
yet there's still something troubling me. I think it's
Mm.
to me like we so many of us were drawn to Balin in
Yep.
Ahsoka.
Yep.
I think that's part of his power of
Hmm.
this is clearly a tormented person, his wind wobbles with emotion in the air. But he's so calm and steady. And there's a fascination for me of characters who are calm and steady and still they're troubled by something. So I love the vibe from her character.
Great way. There's some shots of her in maybe mission robes of some other Jedi, indeed, but even the vibe, the energy is in this kind of glorious era, the High Republic. And I'm saying that in general. At the end of it, she has a different vibe, right? We're not seeing that from
Mm-hmm.
her. I like Harry Payton that. One other character before we forget, we haven't really mentioned it, but we know Vanessa Rowe is going to be in the series, and we got to see her 100 years older than maybe we first met her when she was a teenage wonderkin Jedi Knight prospect, getting called up to the
Mm-hmm.
big leagues early. And I love a lot of the descriptions that Leslie has already put out there. Of there's some reverence of her. She's seen a lot, and she has some weight. And I'm intrigued by how that's going to work in the series as well.
Yeah. Soul looks great too as a
Hmm.
lead perspective. Can't
Love
wait.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So you got another one, Ken, or you want me to grab one?
We got one early on too. Rich asks, "Morning, gentlemen. Thanks for doing this." Well, you're welcome. And again, we
Mm-hmm.
apologize. Jen could not make it today, but we'll be on future episodes. Can you give us a quick breakdown of timeline? How much before episode
Mm.
one? How much after High Republic? And again, going to what we talked about. So this question came in earlier in the show. We're looking at roughly 100 years before the downfall of Sebulba, or the Phantom Menace, which is considered the end of the High Republic era. I've loved tracking how this wasn't necessarily pitched as that by Leslie Headland to Lucasfilm, because the High Republic, though certainly in development, maybe in being written and all that stuff, hadn't kind of solidified yet. But the fact that they were like, "Hey, you got this, we got this," and Leslie Headland and her team just were like, "Awesome, let's read these books." Leslie referring to his mission robes and everything. That's all High Republic stuff. So it's the tail end of that High Republic era. I don't know. Maybe you can help Joseph on the length of the High Republic era. I forget. It's a little confusing for me. Phase one, phase two, going back a bit, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head the timeline of
Hmm.
the High Republic. I also don't know the real world timeline of exactly when the books end, but I certainly don't think the entire publishing story is wrapped by June 4th. I think it is
Right.
continuing.
Correct.
So I think it's an interesting balance. Vanessa Rowe is great, and I think there's going to be other connections to the High Republic. But I think it's in
Hmm.
this interesting position too, where it can't spoil the end of the publishing initiative. It can
Yeah.
only hint at where things like whatever's going on with Vanessa Rowe, however she may be affected by the end of the entire publishing initiative. You got to be careful about that.
Hmm.
Amaranth says Alex has a video short. Of course, Star Wars Explained has a great short, I'm sure,
Sure.
about all this timeline stuff. Some other great discussions about how much people really do need to know. James Farley, thanks for joining us. Says I think most people won't really need to know when exactly it takes place. Folks were confusing Ray and Jin back in the day, and Maul threw a lot of people off as Solo's
Hmm.
place
Hmm.
on the timeline. Absolutely agreed with that. I think for
Hmm.
myself, it's less about clarity. To me, it isn't about do people know where they are on the timeline. To me, sometimes communicating the timeline, I think, is a way for people to get excited about the idea. And
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
this one, that's where I'm coming from. Of I don't think anybody needs to, memorize the timeline. We've got wonderful people in the chat, and Alex and
Yeah.
and Wikipedia. I think
Yeah.
for me, like there's a weight to the fact that this is the earliest on the timeline we've seen in Star Wars. And
Hmm.
if whether you love the prequels or you struggle with the prequels, the idea of this is about 100 years before, and this is how the cracks are starting
Mm.
that make the Jedi be like that. That's narrative to me. And I think I have some friends who are probably down on the prequels because still
Yeah.
of our Generation X who might go, if they know it's 100 years before Phantom Menace and it's about those cracks forming, would be more interested in the show on a narrative level, on a thematic level. So that's the timeline value for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're not done by any means. Joseph, do you have confidence in yourself like a Jedi Vor to answer one question by yourself while I go handle a Chihuahua problem?
Yes. Yes. I will find a good question that is all about soup. So that Ken can later come back with a better soup answer. Scrolling through these wonderful questions. Oh, this is one that has been coming up a lot. There's been a lot of great discussion in the chat about that. Toy Mazder says, and thank you very much for the very kind super chat. Is that Octo? I think for me, I would be happy if Octo shows up. I think it's always that question of how does it tie into the narrative? Is there a narrative reason? I lean a little bit towards maybe not Octo in this time frame. Because the way it is presented in the sequel trilogy to me is that Luke spent a long time finding it and it's been long lost. Now, I can definitely see a different group of Force users, a coven or whatever, who have found it and they have knowledge that Luke and the rest of the Jedi don't. And we, the audience, get to visit it because a different group of Force users know something that the Jedi don't. I could definitely see that. It would make sense. And I'm sure if it's in the show, it would have narrative sense. But for me, there's something that I like about both Octo and Exegol is that they're pretty long lost. I believe Ken is back. There, it doesn't appear to be any blood or wounds from a Chihuahua, so I think it all worked out very well. 8984M says maybe they're going to the dark side cave on Octo. That would be cool. That would be a great narrative reason. That would be, yes, a different reason to seek out the planet for different kind of people.
Love that. Apologize. When you have a 18-year-old blind Chihuahua whose favorite thing now is to get into trash and a 5-year-old who doesn't like it, it creates issues.
We were talking about the question of, is that Octo, Ken? I was saying that I'd be totally open to it if there's a narrative reason. People are suggesting the dark side cave, which is great. And I think, a different sect of Force users could know about it while the Jedi couldn't. But vibe-wise, I also kind of like that it's truly long lost. Luke had to work hard to find it, where do you go?
Yeah, I think I've been burned a little bit of what I call the Ilum excitement from Mandalorian and that kind of stuff, where I think it's fun to want to connect it. I would be happy if it was Octo. I definitely hope Mangold visits Octo in his film, but I just always like the idea of we're about to see something new and exciting, or something that's old in terms of EU or a long lost comic book planet that we never do. But I like that kind of stuff. That's where I put my bets on now.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel prepared after your Chihuahua adventure to grab another question, or would you like me to?
No, I'll grab one here. Did you already discuss, it's gone, the Yoda of it all? True Nasty 98 says, surprised we didn't see Yoda in the trailer. I've seen this a little bit in the small amount of time I spent online this morning for it. I personally am not surprised. I'm not even sure Yoda will be in it. I think it definitely, of course, makes sense. This is also the question we had of Yoda in High Republic Phase 1, and they had a very, he's on a field trip for a long time. He'll be back. I'm expecting to see some of these characters at some point, but it just made sense to me a little bit, and curious, definitely your thoughts on the angle of, and this isn't facts at any level from me, but we are trying to establish that this series is a lot of new, but it will have a lot of old. We got lightsabers, we got red ones, we got green ones, we got blue ones, we got Jedi, we got
yellow ones.
We got yellow ones. That Yoda could, in some ways, maybe hurt the trailer a little bit. And I'm saying that in a general sense, and definitely not everybody. I would have loved to see Yoda. I'd love to know if he's in the series. But it just, for what they're trying to set up, this is something different, something you haven't really explored before. That would make sense for me.
Yeah, I think, I go on about liking Star Wars being a balance of old and the new, and I think that is true within,
Hmm.
the galaxy. A New Hope is young, fresh, Luke and Leia starting out their journeys, and Obi-Wan sighing about things that happened a long time ago.
Hmm.
But it's also that balance in Star Wars in the real world, and I think we have had a lot of old, and I love it. I love the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I let out a long sigh when I saw that the Blu-ray was being marketed as the complete series, because
Hmm.
I'd love another season. I have nothing against legacy characters, but
Yeah,
I
I love.
do think, Star Wars doesn't exist in a vacuum, and
Yeah,
pendulum swings in entertainment, and the entertainment pendulum has swung far into legacy, into
yeah,
reboot, remake. To me, it felt fresh and great when Han said, "Chewie, we're home." I grew up with Ghostbusters, and by the time we're getting
hmm,
to those movies, having a similar sort of chord, and I'm not criticizing those movies or anybody who loves Ghostbusters. It's just an
hmm,
illustration of how long we have been in that
yeah.
pendulum swing towards legacy. I think
There,
it's really
yeah.
good to have a little bit of the pendulum swinging the other way as well, and I think that's what uh, this initial trailer is about. Is it's different for Star Wars.
I'm going almost directly on experience I know I would have had if Yoda had showed up in this trailer. I have a friend who I've worked with over the years. He's out of this side of the business now. He lives in another state, and I guarantee you, he would have texted me and said, "See, I told you they're out of ideas."
Hmm.
And that's not, I don't think that's right, but that's his perspective as someone who is a big fan who wanted them to do more new things. As I've always said, legacy characters love them. You can give me another series about the fall of the empire. You could give me, I'm there for that stuff.
Yeah,
But he is not, and that's a big reason I think that this didn't happen.
there's been some great discussion in the chat as well that I really agree with. Of if Yoda pops up in the show, I do think that there's a great possibility that Yoda and Jarl Poof, thank you very much,
Yes.
shows up. Um, but
Mhm.
it would be misleading if they are not main characters. If we're following,
Yeah, yeah,
a handful of Jedi who are trying to unravel this mystery, and at one point they go to the council, and it's two scenes. Uh,
yeah.
Is it misleading? Do people think it's the Yoda show? You know?
Right, right. Yeah, possible way to look at it.
Yeah,
But mostly, we'll see.
yeah. I think, I was fascinated in the High Republic. I thought in the High Republic Yoda was just going to be like, on sabbatical I am,
Yeah, yeah.
and I know he does come and go, and he's up to different things. But I thought that the way that they have used Yoda in the High Republic, well, the High Republic has so many new Jedi with different perspective and different life experiences. It feels so fresh that Yoda is just seasoning, and I kind of hope for that. I'd
Hmm.
love to see Yoda
Yeah, it
I'd
makes
love to
sense.
see puppet Yoda
Hmm.
or CGI
Yeah,
Yoda. I don't care.
yeah,
Or
yeah. I'd love
Yaddle,
to.
as Rodney just said. Yaddle,
Hmm.
please.
Yaddle, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I think we'll get to the high council at some point. Whether Yoda's there that day, maybe he took a PTO day, I don't know. But I think we'll get to the high council. It's just I don't think we're going to spend a ton of time there.
It feels like
Yeah,
with this show kind of putting the Jedi on blast,
yeah,
that some discussion with the council seems like it might happen.
yeah.
All right.
Um, Yeah, while you're looking for a new one, I'm going to bring up this one here from Sam saying, can't watch live right now because I'm on my lunch break. Well, Sam, hopefully you watch a little later. Just want to say, after missing them for Ahsoka, no scabs here. Can't wait for the weekly ForceCenter breakdowns on this show. Of course, don't forget we're doing our breakdowns on the Bad Batch going on right now. Loving the season. Big episode tomorrow, I'm sure. But yeah, it's going to be fun, Joseph. It's also, I have to get little Bad Batch has been, I need to get in game shape a little bit. I need to get the rhythm down. And I think we'll be doing over on Casually Talk. I think we'll be doing the House of the Dragon breakdown. So June's going to be a fun, busy month for that nerd content we love so much. But thank you, Sam, for that comment.
Yeah. I didn't see this one earlier from Haskell 420, so we've discussed elements of this, but I want to be sure to discuss it since they
Hmm.
very kindly gave us a super chat. Hey guys, good morning. Great teaser. I could be mistaken, but the shot of someone overlooking the water could be Octo in the entrance to the dark cave we saw in Last Jedi. just with a pool of water over it. I want to talk about the dark side cave,
Mhm.
as people are bringing up. You and I both love that scene in The Last Jedi.
Mhm.
How would you feel about the idea of not just Octo, but some sort of um,
Mm.
trip, a holy journey to face the dark cave? Either a Jedi or a light side user doing it
Mhm.
to face a trial,
Mhm.
or a dark side user, wanting to go there for their truth. How would you feel about seeing the dark side cave?
That's where I would go with it. If this is a series about questioning and everyone's relationships to being questioned, what if you get some answers, right? What if you go, and where are you getting those answers from? And how does that fuel your journey forward? How does it drive and change maybe even your perspective? That would be intriguing to me. About a lot of times we see, and I don't have all the examples in front of me, but a lot of times we see Luke and Dagobah. Oh God, he gets a truth reveal, but it's like, I can't accept that. Ray has some, she's questioning and it drives her forward. But what if someone's like, exactly what I thought? Yep, red blade open.
Once again, it's a place like in publishing with books and comics, and even in Clone Wars with Yoda going into the cave on Dagobah. We've seen
Yeah.
multiple people have experiences. It would be great in live action to have somebody go into the
Mm-hmm.
same cave on Octo, have a completely different experience, have it look different. Would
Mm-hmm.
be cool by itself. But I love the idea of, getting to see a dark sider go in there for confirmation bias of like,
Mm-hmm.
yep,
Mm-hmm. That's
violence is
me.
the only answer. That's what I thought, and then the cave told me, so I'm right. You're like, that would be great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like you always say, Force ghosts show up when a character's in need, and everyone else goes into the dark side caves when they've got big questions. So perfect for this series, in fact.
Should I have another drink at midnight and buy action figures online? The Dark Side Cave said yes. Gotta do it.
Oh, love that there. Love that there. Great question there. This is our buddy 8984M just saying, hey, Asian representation of Star Wars for light and life. And kind of what we were talking up top of the show, that kind of joy and that kind of passion for something like that is I think why I keep coming back to Star Wars as Star Wars continues to grow. And I really, right there with you, 8984M. Big table. Let's get some more chairs at it.
Yep. I am so happy for everybody who gets to see themselves in Star Wars in a myriad of different ways. And I love seeing all the different perspectives born from all of our different life experiences, no matter what form or shape those life experiences take. I'm very excited for it. 8984M also has a question with another generous super chat. Thank you so much. Inspired by Wuxia. Apologies if that is the incorrect pronunciation. I wonder how it will deal with the conflicting morals of Sith and Jedi, how the Sith code may keep one stuck on the wrong path. Wuxia deals with conflicting code and morals. I don't know a lot about it. I Googled it when it came in, so I am not an expert in any way, shape, or form, and don't want to pretend it. But I have always loved, since honestly, the Phantom Menace, in that in particular the Kenobi and Maul fight, and that really became big, I think, in what is now the expanded universe, the idea of all these different Jedi forms. And in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, which I haven't read in years, but Obi-Wan's kind of like, why is the Jedi Council so certain I should be the one to stop General Grievous? And it's because his form is all defensive. He's not aggressive. He's not about winning. And he has, to my memory, because again, I haven't read that book in years, he has this epiphany that that's the style needed to defeat him. This fighting Grievous is all about literally disarming him. It's all about slowly, wearing down his violence with a totally defensive attitude. So I love philosophy imbued into the actual physical fighting. And I want to learn more about this, and I really want to see the conflicting codes on display in the physical action.
Love that. And 8984M says wuxia. It's not
Wuxia.
English pronounceable. Well, yeah, my American tongue often gets in the way of saying things the right way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. And again, this is the kind of the what's at stake in this series for me, as it's a mystery thriller that deals with this time period, but just analyzing the why of the falls that we are familiar with. Love that.
Yeah. How much do you like seeing philosophy in the actual fights, Ken? Is that uh,
Yeah, I love it because it's there. It's present, and it's always again we it's not the first time you and I have referenced the very basic Sid Field screenwriting 101 of every bit of action should be an explainer for who is in those scenes or who's in that story, and to have it play out and just connecting themes. Everyone loves, I think generally everyone loves Dave Filoni's big monologue in the Disney Gallery series about what's at stake between Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul in Phantom Menace, and how that affects everything going forward for those characters. So to get that in these fights, we got some cool fights coming, which means we got different ways to analyze it and a different time period.
Yeah, and it seems like with such a clear influence from all sorts of different fight styles that's so clearly on display. I think there has to have been a lot of discussion of philosophy, so I can't wait to discuss it and break it down and all that.
Yeah, indeed. Love that there. We got. I'll bring this one up really quick. Our buddy PLD. I watched your reaction video this morning. PLD, good stuff. Probably too early for Hondo. So Papa Hondo watch. Yeah. No, I don't think Hondo's showed him this one, but it made me think. Joseph, who knows? Maybe we could get Pondo, his dad, or Hondo Senior. How prevalent will the Star Wars underworld, and I don't necessarily mean bounty hunters and gangsters and all that kind of stuff, but we're dealing with Jedi, we're dealing with dark side, but it's about how that affects the galaxy and the denizens of said galaxy. So I wonder how much time we will spend with those who are looking either up or out towards these factions.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Now I just want to see a prequel series called How Hondo Happened. And it is his
And it's
parents.
just, yeah. Let me tell you here. My story begins 50 years ago. Yeah.
I was born a small pirate. Yeah, it's hilarious. But yeah, the whole underworld side of it, this is so all Jedi, all Force, all mysticism, all the time. Love it.
Yeah.
I think if somebody is killing Jedi and it's a murder mystery where a group of various detectives and an assassin, I feel like there's some natural bumping into going to interrogate whoever is whoever's the Boba Fett, the Cad Bane, maybe a Hutt, maybe also the spirit of the EU. How many weird different crime bosses do you run into in EU books and EU video games? So it also seems like maybe not a Hutt, maybe this group was prevalent at the time,
Look, with Leslie's very much public love of Heir to the Empire and that trilogy, we could get Father of Talon card, right? We could get Balin card. We could get something like that. But you said something great on our episode yesterday with the reaction to the poster and the anticipation for the trailer of this investigation, this thriller, this dare we say murder mystery with a little bit of noir style. You could say more here. Obviously, I'm not speaking for you. Just going to those who are other, going to those who are at the diners or those who are the kitchen workers who aren't the upper crust. It is about finding out their perspective on what's going on.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of the Raymond Chandler novels, the Philip Marlowe stories in particular, and I think a lot of those books are real DNA for what became, particularly the kind of noir that people parody of, the gruff guy looking out over the wasted city with the monologue. A lot of it comes from that. And I think it was a way to wrestle with what's really going on in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles, like all big cities, has a history of movers and shakers and the people with power maybe abusing that power. And who actually sees it? Well, the porters and the waiters and the night staff and the chauffeurs and the people who are treated as less than, or maybe somebody who has power, but criminal power, who is maybe in league with somebody who has legitimate power. And I think that is a staple of this kind of investigation, is who has seen what in its people at all levels of society. And that's a part of the storytelling. So I think it really falls in line to like that kind of great storytelling of like the lead goes to like some pirate, leader the Jedi would normally not work with, but they need information.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. It could be applied.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll get to Hondo.
Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Looking through here for any other Hondo questions, which is all we're taking out. Just kidding. This one comes to us from Fennec Fand. Okay, I see. It's about something we already talked about. I was a little worried this show might be too. Both sides are bad, but I think you've talked me down. So thanks. Also, so happy to see all the different alien species. They all look great. Very much agreed on the alien species, and yeah, I think that's an important thing to talk about when we talk about wanting to understand the villain's perspective, relating to the villains. The great truth that the best villains have deep motivations, and you can understand why they're upset, even if you don't agree with the actions they take on it. But that does risk becoming, everybody's bad, both sides are bad, which I think is sometimes not true, and I think sometimes leads to apathy, which in some ways is the worst thing of like, everybody sucks, so I'm just not going to be involved at all.
Right. Yeah. No, I just, again, it's this journey forward. It's analyzing. It's George saying, I'm taking this good 9-year-old boy who wants to help the galaxy, and you're going to see his fall, even though you know the fall. I don't think you understood it, and I'm going to explain it even more and try to see what lessons are there for all of you. And I think when I hear anyone talking about the show who's behind the creative process of it, it isn't about, we're going to see how the Jedi turned bad in the Phantom Menace. We're going to see how this institution set out for good fell. How does that happen? And the relationship of these institutions to these others, these underdogs, how they can grow. It's just to me, it's simple. The details are still to come, and I'm excited for the details. But yeah, we addressed a little bit. That was the comment at the top of the show about the hackles that came from yesterday's discussion. I just get my hackles up a little bit by what I think is sometimes a real basic reading and a reductive point of view on the Jedi are really the bad guys. No, they're not. No, they're not. That's never been what's there. It's analyzing how, though, someone who was good, an institution that was good, can lose their way. It doesn't mean that we don't need the order here. And I think that will be explored.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think it is. It's important to understand other people's perspective, even if you can't agree with their actions ultimately, because then you, I think, are clear on why you are doing what you're doing. And it goes back to, things we're talking about before about the Jedi being willing to question things and make sure that they are aligned with their own philosophy and not just, having the sort of like, but we're the good guys, so we must be right, but rather having to like verify every time you take a step that you're on the right path.
Love that. We've gotten some deep stuff here, so I want to go to Gaz Nottingham, and this the question. I didn't notice a cute or cool new droid in this trailer. I don't remember seeing anything in Celebration either in this trailer. So other than I'd say the surfing droids are cute in their own way, but yeah, I think this is a good point. We haven't been identified to some B2 emo like droid. I think I could see that. I could see that happening, but even if there isn't, there'd be a little bit of new combined with the old Star Wars. There's definitely going to be droids, but do you want a cute little puppy dog type droid here at the side?
I will join my friends on Hondo Watch with an ever expanding H watch of a Huyang watch.
Huyang, there you go.
That would be cool. I'd love to see Huyang. No, I really am sure that we will see droids. Like Ken is saying, some serving droids in the background. I'm sure I would love to see, beyond Huyang, other Jedi, with droids, droids serving in the temple, all that. I'd be happy to see droids. I think for me, just in the context of the trailer, I'm glad we didn't see the R2 Chopper B2 Emo BB-8 type droid. Because I think even though I'm happy to have that kind of character present in a trailer context, I think they do need to make things feel different and feel specific. We talk about different, but there's also specific. What's this show about? It's about Jedi and Force users. And so it didn't necessarily have to have that like, hey, when the sequels came back out, they wanted to let you know that the Star Wars you like is back. So there are
Hmm.
scoundrels, there are Sith, there are light side, there are spaceships, there's a cute new droid. It was a sort of checklist of the classics, and I think we're
Yeah.
at the point where we don't need a checklist of the classics
Right.
every time. We need specificity so people understand why this one is different.
I agree with
That's
that.
entirely about the context of the trailer. I'm happy if there's a cute, awesome droid in the actual show,
Yeah.
but I'm glad that it doesn't need to be in the trailer.
Yeah. Sarah says, as I stand up, the back is flaring up. We're good though. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I think Amaranth just said, where is it? Sorry, Kelbacca. Oh, Jay for Nowhere said, Kelbacca is alone except for his droid companion. Yes, that would make sense.
I would like that. Yeah.
There we go. Good stuff. More on the way. We got some stuff to get to. We're going to get to all of it here. Don't you all worry. Great questions coming in. Anything jumping out to you?
Yeah, this is along the lines we've been talking about from Drew Nasty 98. Do you think they'll do any type of time jump where you see a young Sheev? Might be too on the nose. We've talked about the possibility of seeing the Sith that we know from EU and from other sources of Darth Tenebris, Darth Plagueis. Sorry, when I thought about seeing a young Sheev, the timeline doesn't work because I don't think he's 100 yet. But when I thought about seeing young Sheev, I pictured when we see Mr. Burns the child in The Simpsons, his little knee socks with the sucker,
With the sucker.
yeah, like it's like
yes. Petrol, post haste.
ugh.
Yeah. I don't think we'll see young Sheev.
What if the whole thing was narrated by Sheev and the end ends with him closing a Sith holocron and that's how it all began.
Love that there. And bringing in this question too, which is I think in line with Drew's question. Thrawn is one of the few Legends characters that paid off. Do you think Darth Plagueis will show up as well? And that look, that's the big question as well. And we've been dancing around some of it here too. But like, I got to say at this point, if I put my money down, even speculating responsibly as we have been doing for 10 years, I think no. But if I'm putting that bet down, there's enough hesitation to where I might just let someone bet first, Joseph, and I'll wait to see the results. It definitely makes sense. Again, we've gone to this before, but Leslie Headland being such an EU kid, and along the way, that James Luceno novel is one I've read, and I did enjoy it, even though it's not canon anymore. It makes sense in a lot of timeline ways. I just don't know yet if I think it makes sense for the story, but we'll see. And I'm obviously open to a wide open path in front of me for the Sith.
Yeah, I'm open to a surprise Sheev pop, but I'm far more interested in seeing the line of Sith. We got a lot of great suggestions for young Sheev sitcoms, and That's How I Met Your Master, young Sheev.
Tales from the Exegol Crypt. It's great.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
the knee. It's Sheev in knee-high socks with a sucker. It's just the image we all need now.
Chu Bako says, has it ever been confirmed how old Palpatine is at the beginning of Phantom Menace? There always comes from Ian McDermott about how old he is, and I feel like it fluctuates a lot. Yeah. I to my knowledge and in my headcanon, it's ambiguous. I think he could absolutely just be the age that he is, or he could have been living for a while. I think old Darth Plagueis novel locked some stuff in, but right now, we get to enjoy The Mysteries of Sheev on CBS
this fall. Here's Ian McDermott and is seen as young Sheev. Watch as he enters this room. I would love that there. Cameron Stewart says, no specific question. I'm just excited for the show for every reason. Just wanted to say I love what y'all do. Well, thank you. Bringing much needed positivity to fandom these days. May the force be with you. We always appreciate that. I always say that word positive and the everything is awesome kind of mentality is a little incorrect to the big picture, but in what the way Cameron means it, we are here to, like I said, invite everyone in who wants to engage and enjoy all of this and find out what works for them and how it connects to your regular and real lives. And that's what we continue to do here. So Cameron, thanks for being a part of that.
Absolutely.
There you go. We're getting towards the end here. The questions, a lot of stuff coming in here.
Yep.
We got
This is from our friend Ken Plume, who says, the show ends with Yoda, suitcase in hand, post vacay.
What did I miss?
Our friend Michael McCarso had to go teach a class and then or take class. I'm not sure which one. A class. Did say, "What did I'm back. What did I miss?" Much like Yoda, back I am. Miss what I did.
Yeah. Or it's like the Community Donald Glover clip, and GIF and meme of him walking back in with pizza and everything's on fire. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Going back a moment. Sheave it to beaver.
Sheave it to beaver.
Just a disturbing sentence all by itself.
Context. Love that there.
Yeah.
A couple more questions. We're almost done here. So if you got a question, want to get in, highlight it, let us know. If you asked a question earlier, we missed it or overlooked it, it wasn't intentional. Re-ask it here now.
And Michael said, I was in physics, so coincidentally, I was learning about forces.
Love that there. Love that. Jared, our buddy Jared Kozal asks, how do you foresee the show balancing our dark side protagonist, a underdog and coded sympathetic with a justice for the Jedi perspective? I trust Leslie Headland to not resort to reductive Jedi equals bad framing. We were talking about earlier, but just getting to this, Jared asked this question at the top of the hour. Just reemphasizing some of the stuff we talked about. Yeah, I just trust in everything she has said, or trust her because of everything she has said before, that she not just has a joy of Star Wars, but just gets the core tenets of it. And those are some of the quote that is often used against things if you want it to go that way is the Kathleen Kennedy guide rails thing that came out months or what is time. Isn't yes, there's any kind of big studio picture, you're gonna have things you can't do or cannot do. We've heard a lot about that with Marvel. That's a different side of it. That's not what I took that as. It's just this is what it's about. This is what Star Wars is about, and doesn't mean you can't bring in EU stuff or different perspectives or retell a hero's tale. The advertising for the show is even saying upends the typical Jedi hero tale for a story focused on the dark side disrupting the Jedi Order in its prime. That's tantalizing, and it's a little bit different. It's a different perspective, but it's still, I think, it's going to point to a Star Wars true north.
No, I really agree. I think that my reading and my opinion of some of the other Star Wars storytelling that Lucas did about the Jedi failing and making mistakes always had Jedi characters who were wary. I don't think Qui-Gon is a rogue Jedi. I think he's the one who's sticking to his philosophy. Yeah. I think he's the one who questioned himself and has come back going, we're spending too much time hiding from the people. Prophecies are often scary, but we can't be scared of everything. Let's give this one some thought. Let's give it a possibility. Let's be open to the new. Yeah, I think even in stories that criticize the Jedi, to specifically answer Jared's story, I think this is a story that's going to criticize the institution. And I think within that, we are going to see, my hope is that we're going to see Jedi who are ones that we can align with, that we're sympathetic to the underdog of the dark side users, and we understand what led them to making bad choices. And in that same way, we see Jedi who see the path that the Jedi are on and are pulling against it, and unfortunately don't lose. But we can kind of root for them the way we can root for Qui-Gon during the fall of the Jedi.
Love it. Yeah, agree with that. Love that. All right, a couple more coming in here. Chewbacca says, "Do you think this can start to tease things for Mangold's film?" I don't know. I don't know. Meaning, I'm sure he's started, and I'm sure there's some concept art, and I'm sure there's some discussions, and I'm sure there's been meetings. I don't know. I just, timeline of when this show was put together, when that movie was not just announced, but first thought of. I'm not expecting anything direct, but enough to, that stuff could be pulled from. I mean, I think the biggest one is I have for the Mangold film is Octo and Prime Jedi and that kind of stuff that's already been established. And I don't know Big Jim, but it just seems like someone he's going to want to tell his story, and then we'll see what it connects with. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm intrigued by that. So I'm not expecting that. But it could get, just in terms of the general fan base, thinking more about outside of the Skywalker saga, outside of High Republic's doing so well on the publishing side, but books and comics aren't read as much as these things are
Hmm.
watched. So this is a chance for that stuff to happen too.
Yeah, I think, yeah, in terms of like interior storytelling, is there an alignment of we're meeting this planet or this descendant of this character? I don't think anything real super
Hmm.
connected storytelling wise. I think the biggest thing that Ken said is I really agree with is it's in the imagination of the public of
Yeah.
look at all the stories there are to tell. Look at as we get to know the Jedi Order and
Hmm.
love individual Jedi characters more. Aren't you
Hmm.
interested in the beginning of all that? I think it's a good advertisement for stories outside the Skywalker saga.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then, yeah, no, Mangold's working on other stuff too, and I think he's already proven he can work within the frames of a IP. He's done it a few times, but put his own
Hmm.
thing on it. But I think he worked really well within the framework of Indiana Jones. So I think he'll do it. I want to be clear. I think he'll do it with his film. He's not going to be some, no, I'm going to do this. Yeah, but yeah, I just don't expect it here. But anyways, yeah,
Yeah, and I think that I think he's got ideas. I don't know if he's even started writing. So
yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, we got one in the hopper here, so last chance to get questions in because I've got some frozen mac and cheese to microwave soon here. The Cali Kid says there's a rumor that the OG trilogy and prequel trilogy will get a theatrical release in May. Do you think there's any credence to this rumor? Other than Phantom Menace hitting theaters, I haven't heard anything else myself. I don't know about you, sir. I would love it. I think I'm going to have to miss the Phantom Menace. I was really hoping to get over to the El Cap and see it, but I think I'll be flying back from New York that day. But
are the
uh,
tickets out yet?
I don't even know. I don't even know.
Okay.
I guess I'm just assuming it'd be at the El Cap, but where Sebulba will be on display because it's his story, as we established today. But yeah, I haven't heard the rumors. You?
I have not heard that rumor. I think, if the Phantom Menace, re-release that's been announced goes gangbusters for the anniversary, I could see them doing
Mm-hmm.
more limited releases. That would be great. I would love that. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see Phantom Menace, hopefully at a real prime time with people who love the film. That would be great. And I would love
Yeah.
to keep doing that. Attack of the Clones for it's it can be a lightning rod of its Star Wars films. It is I
Mm-hmm.
just love watching that one. It's
Yeah.
so pulpy and has been evoked rightfully is a great place where noir meets Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
and what a great time with the Acolyte doing the same thing to celebrate Attack of the Clones. So hey, I hope it rolls out. I'll go see it.
Yeah. I hope so too. Yeah, just to be around the Star Wars fans sharing the joy again. Be great. Be great. But we'll
Hmm.
see.
Hmm.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. I think that's about it, at least in terms of super chats and questions we had pegged to answer later. So anything else you see, sir?
No, no, no. I think we're good. I think we're gonna have lots of time to talk about the Acolyte. As we wrap up here, Ken, do you have any other final thoughts on this trailer?
Yeah, I'm hyped not for this only for the series, but for the discussions that are going to come out of it. I think it'll be fun. It's always going to be challenging. There's some aspects of not just the fandom, but of society that's going to do everything to pull a show like this down. And like I said up top, I don't think anyone in the show needs our protection. They're strong in their own, but I'm here to stand with Star Wars moving forward in a lot of different ways, as it I think has been for a while. But beyond that, I coming out of Star Wars Celebration Europe over there in London, walking out of that Excel Center after seeing the footage, which was slightly different. There's some other things we saw there that weren't here. I've just told a lot of friends, other than I really love Bad Batch, just wait to Acolyte. I think the Acolyte's going to
Mhm.
surprise you, and I haven't been pushed off that thought yet.
Yeah. Two things for me. One, if anybody wants to screenshot it, our friend Will Dixon says Shaw Brothers starter pack.
There you go.
Sheldon, 5 deadly venoms. Come drink with me. The flying guillotine. Come drink with me. Again, the kid with the golden arm. Heroes from the
Yeah.
East and more. I'm in love with just these titles. These titles not only speak to me, they also sound like Sinatra albums. So I
Yes.
absolutely love that. Thank you, Will Dixon. And I literally took a screenshot. Um,
Perfect.
Final thought for me. I meant to mention it up top. I am excited for the Acolyte for bringing together the old in the new in Star Wars. I'm excited for it being lots of different perspectives. I'm excited to see a woman who grew up in love with the EU tell a Star Wars story. Definitely hugely excited for the philosophy, but also I always just want to touch back in, Ken, with the just the sort of the fun and the fantasy. I I'm not tired of seeing Jedi. And
Right.
really, big scope of things. In Attack the Clones, we got to see them all in the arena scene. Got to see them a bunch in animated shows. High Republic really fulfilled the promise of the premise of getting to meet lots of individual Jedi and fall in love with them, not as Jedi in the background number 87, whose name we know, but as characters. And the thrill that went through me on that shot, going down the line of Jedi after Jedi igniting these different lightsabers of different colors. And like I did sit on a playground and in my kitchen with my older brother going, is what if there were like a bunch of them?
A bunch of them.
Just
Yeah.
Luke or Obi-Wan one at a time, and Vader, but like a bunch of them. A line of Jedi seeing a red blade and all igniting their blades in live action in a show where we get to spend time with them and get to
Mhm.
know them as individuals. I do not want to ever neglect to be happy for the bounty as a Star Wars fan. And
Yeah.
I'll probably love the show. Maybe I'll have some criticisms, but I never want to just walk away from that thrill of
Yeah.
look at all those Jedi igniting those blades.
I agree with that. Absolutely. Final super chat coming. Annie Sander joined a bit too late to gather my thoughts and post something of substance, but here's to some support and love for you guys. Thank you. We and Jennifer appreciate that. Well, I think, Joseph, I think we've done it. 2 hours on a minute and 45-second or so trailer. That's what we do around these parts. So that's it. Any final thoughts, sir? I'll take us home with all the links and stuff that we can.
Nope. Just the thrill of igniting those blades. You go for it on the roll call.
Ignite your blades today, kids. Context. We are ForceCenter. We are on a lot of social media spots because that's, the way of the land right now. We are still on what we call Twitter at ForceCenter Pod, Threads, ForceCenter Pod, Instagram as well, Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We are a podcast first, and you can find us wherever podcasts are, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Just search, you'll find us. Merch is available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. I will highlight this one. The Roll It Again shirt is from our buddy Brian Ward. Letting you know Brian's work. You can go to his shop and get this shirt. While supplies last. If you want to support us on Patreon, we're at patreon.com/ForceCenter. From there, you can get into our Discord to continue the conversation. Enjoy our supplemental series like 007 Center. The Quantum of Solace review will be coming up in early April. Casino Royale is up. It's also on our shop. Follow me at Ken Napzok or KenNapzok.com. If you're in Boston or near Boston, April 3rd and April 6th, 2 shows. Mark Ellis and I will be with Justine Marino at Laugh Boston on April 3rd, and Mark Ellis and I will be at the Rockwell April 6th. Information on my website. Joseph, you got a lot of going on, including a great newsletter. Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on all the various social media, Blue Sky and Threads and Mastodon and Instagram. At Joseph Scrimshaw is my handle everywhere. You can also check out my newsletter. There was a new blog post today. I put one out every Tuesday. The blog is called Finish Your Monsters. I discuss a little bit of my own creative adventures and trying to keep myself on track with goals and encourage other people to find time to really define and pursue their goals a little bit at a time. I've got a new post up about my 10-year anniversary of living in Los Angeles and how a good creative moment found me while celebrating that adventure of living here for 10 years. Again, you can just Google my name, Joseph Scrimshaw, and Finish Your Monsters, and that will pop right up. That is it for me for now, Ken.
That is it. That reminds me, a decade of ForceCenter. That's what we're in. 10 years, long time. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.